Koinat, good evening, fellow South Africans and citizens of the world. Now, this is a shout out to Laura, who drew my attention to this article, which she's copied into the email. And it's quoted from the Citizen newspaper on the 2nd of April 1987, when the paper still had credibility. Of course, it's got no credibility today. And the story is headed, "The Real Story of Apartheid." Since 1970, the budget for black education was raised by about 30% per year, every year, more than any other government department. In the period 1955 to 1984, the amount of black school students increased 31 times, from 35,000 to 1,096,000. 65% of black South African children were at schools, compared to Egypt's 64%, Nigeria's 57%, Ghana's 52%, Tanzania 50%, and Ethiopia only 29%. Amongst the adults of South Africa, 71% could read and write, 80% between the ages of 12 and 22. Compare this to Kenya, 47%, Egypt, 38%, Nigeria, 34%, and Mozambique at 26%. In South Africa, the whites built 15 new classrooms for blacks every working day, every year. At 40 children per class, it meant space for an additional 600 black students every day. In 1985, there were 42,000 blacks at 5 universities in South Africa, about the same amount at the universities of the homelands, another 40,000 at another 5. In an article called Die Afrikaner on the 11th of February 1987, the courtly magazine called Vox Africana number 29, 4/87, stated that South Africa had 4.8 million whites and 18.2 million blacks in 1987. That's 18.2 million. The whites paid 77% of the taxes and the blacks only 15%. Despite this, 56% of the government budget was spent on blacks. During the time Dr. Verwoerd, the living standards of blacks was rising at 5.4% per year, against that of whites at 3.9% per year. In 1965, the economic growth of South Africa was the second highest in the world at 7.9%. The rate of inflation was a mere 2% per annum, and the prime interest rate was only 3% per annum. Domestic savings were so great that South Africa needed no foreign loans for normal economic expansion. Even Lord Deeds admitted white South Africa grew to become the economic giant of the continent. The other members of the Commonwealth virtually sank into poverty. At the height of apartheid in 1978, Soweto had 115 football fields, 3 rugby fields, 4 athletic tracks, 11 cricket fields, 2 golf courses, 47 tennis courts, 7 swimming pools built to Olympic standards, 5 bowling alleys, 81 netball fields, 39 children's play parks, and countless civic halls, movie houses, and clubhouses. In addition to this, Soweto had 300 churches, 365 schools, 2 technical colleges, 8 clinics, 63 child daycare centres, 11 post offices, and its own fruit and vegetable market. There were 2,300 registered companies that belonged to black businessmen, about 1,000 private taxi companies. 3% of the 50,000 vehicle owners in 1978 were Mercedes-Benz owners. Soweto alone had more cars, taxis, schools, churches, and sport facilities than most independent countries in Africa. The blacks of South Africa had more private vehicles than the entire white population of Russia at the time, or the USSR at the time. Today, Soweto has modern shopping malls like Dobsonville Shopping Centre. In 2005, the Protea Garden Mall opened. This was followed by the Baramal Shopping Centre and the Jabulani Shopping Complex and the Mapayani Mall Experts say that Soweto has as much as 25% oversupply of retail space. The biggest hospital in the world, Baragwanath, with 3,200 beds and at its peak during apartheid with almost 8,000 staff, had 23 operation theatres fitted out with the most modern medical equipment that existed in the world. Blacks were treated here, operated on, at full state cost to the white taxpayer for unlimited periods. The budget of this hospital was and is higher than the yearly budget of most small member states of the United Nations. Next door to Baragwanath is the St. John Eye Clinic. The clinic was world famous for the treatment of glaucoma, cataracts, traumatic eye injuries, and rare tropical diseases. Baragwanath in 1978 employed 450 medical doctors in full-time service. It treated 112,000 inpatients and 1.62 million outpatients per year. The children and infant death rate, with 34.8 per thousand, was lower than Harlem in New York. In 1982 alone, this hospital performed 898 heart operations of world quality. Ironically, 90% of the blood donors for this hospital were white people who donated blood free of charge, totally voluntarily, to save black lives. Whites have already given blacks their blood. What more do they want? Very interesting point. And let's face it, when you look at those facts and figures of how things were in the apartheid days, I would suggest that even though apartheid in itself is wrong, the standard of living of the average black person was much higher back then. But you see, the trouble is the youth of today, the black youth of today, have only known the chaos that is South Africa today. So they just run with the ball. All right, guys, please remember to subscribe to be kept informed, and have a great evening. Bye for now. Oh, and don't forget to ring the bell so you get the updates.